Welcome, everyone, to the MDM Show. That's the Modern Day Mystic Show with Peter Schenk. We have two very important guests today. One, of course, we've got Chandini La Ray coming back with us. Chandini is here to answer any questions you might have about Dr. Emoto. So if you have questions about Dr. Emoto, then this is the time to ask her. Ask her about her work with him and the different things that he was doing. Plus, we also have Dr. Steve Adler on the show with us today. Dr. Steve Adler, we're going to call him Sacred Steve. He is known as Sacred Steve, and Sacred Steve is from Sacred Chocolate. And by the way, Chandini also works with Steve, so those two are going to talk to us about Sacred Chocolate. A little bit about Sacred Steve. He, of course, he has a, Steve, you're a rocket scientist. I love saying that. But you're also a doctor of divinity, so you're going to talk to us about the process of putting love, the physics of putting love into chocolate. And of course, our esteemed host, Peter Schenk. Peter Schenk is the Modern Day Mystic, and Peter, of course, is going to talk to us about some incredible things he has coming up for us. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. So go ahead, Peter, take it away.
Thanks, Donna. I'd like to welcome everyone to the MDM Show. Again, we have Chandini La Ray back with us. And I just wanted to kind of start the show a little bit, having Chandini finish up some things that she was talking about with Dr. Emoto. She's going to share a book and a couple other things with us. So, Chandini, over to you.
Oh, yes. I don't know if everybody knows the title of his books. So can everybody see? This is the first book that was published in English and Japanese. And this is the book that he brought to Switzerland when I first met him. And it is called Messages from Water, World's First Pictures of Frozen Water Crystals. So here's the crystal again. This is the first crystal that he ever got. Yeah, can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
It's a very beautiful crystal. And then there was a second book which I don't have. I couldn't find it in my library, but this is the third with another very beautiful crystal. Here, you see the 6-pointed star. And this is the Message from Water, number 3. And the title is a little bit different. It is called Love Thyself. So, yes, that was his last book that was published, and that was his message that love starts with ourselves, and that we can only love other people if we really love ourselves. Yeah, and I don't know if there are any questions that you would like me to answer. Or
I have one. On last week's show, you had mentioned love your water. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
What it means to love your water?
I don't know. Was it in the pre-show, Donna, or was it after?
You know what? That was during the end of the show. It was, you talked about treat your water like a lover.
Oh.
Sure. Yeah, so that was one of his sentences that he always used. He said, yes, if you want to understand water, then treat it like a lover, because water is the female element, or amongst those 4 or 5 elements that we have, it is the most magnetic element, and it has the ability to store subtle energies. And so he said, you know, water is like a woman. She remembers everything.
I love that.
Yeah.
I have a rhetorical comment about that.
Be careful. So you better treat her like a lover, the water. And, well, of course, he meant the water in your body, and, of course, all waters on this planet, but especially the water in your own body. So treat it like a lover. Be kind to yourself. Love thyself.
What happens if you have a horrible breakup with the water?
Well,
then.
Well, I think that's the source of illness, no? Yeah, so that's where disturbances occur and where disharmonies energies are stored. It's in, there every cell has a center, and around that center there is this liquid, and then there is a cell wall, and the informations are actually stored in that little space between the liquid and the cell wall. And if you don't have enough water in the cell, there is too much space in between, and the information cannot be stored. And if you have kind of viruses or bacteria in the water, the ability of that water to store the original information is as well damaged. So that's why he focused on water, because he started with the idea of healing, to find a different technology for healing. And I told you last time how he found out about the water and how he experienced himself the healing of his aching ankle. And that's when he said, oh, okay, this is the best way to heal, because he realized that our body is made of 85% water. And when he started his research, that's all he did the last 20 years. He did only research on water. And, well, his message was, as I said, love water like a lover, or treat water like a lover, because that's where your health begins and where it ends.
That's an amazing analogy. I happen to blank slate my water all the time to remove all the programming from it. So I'm just thinking of ways in life to create something, if you want to date somebody and you want to, erase them. I don't know. Anyways, over Steve Adler. We had a little brief introduction to you. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and Sacred Chocolate and how you've been working with Chandini and this cool technology?
Sure. Yeah. My background's originally in engineering and science, and then I got into the subject of raw foods in the early 1990s, and got into nutrition, and finally got into fasting, and eventually all that sort of resulted in me a sort of spiritual awakening, heart opening, and I've always been a seeker of truth, and so eventually it led to my spiritual path, which I've been into now for 16 years. And that Sacred Chocolate is an outgrowth of that spiritual path originally. And so my goal with Sacred Chocolate is to basically create like a holy sacrament, something that's very high vibration, so that when somebody consumes it, not only are they enjoying the flavor and they're getting these superfood nutrients of raw cacao, but then also energetically they're uplifted. So they might have, some sort of slight epiphany, or they may just have a mood elevation from the energetic love that's put into Sacred Chocolate. And so I met Chandini online, and we resonated immediately with the subject matter of basically infusing something that is so loved by humans, such as water or chocolate, with love.
So, I mean, that's a really cool concept. So, the Aquaware line of technology that I use, we use water to charge with intent. But how do you put love into chocolate? What's this?
Well, it's actually the exact same way your software puts love into water. I mean, first and foremost, it begins with intention. I mean, love is the grandest mystery of the universe. I mean, if you talk about love scientifically, if you try and look at it, it's reversal transference, where one element becomes the other, and there's a constant dance between two. But there's a balancing point in there. It's either first light or intention. First light being kind of a primal light before, like, the dense photons that we know light as. So love is this, superpower, basically, that is responsible for all of existence, and it's inherent within us. We are actually love. First and foremost, if we peel away everything that we know each other as, our physical bodies, our energetic bodies, if you keep peeling away that onion, if you will, what will be left is just your unique ray of love, which is immortal and was birthed from God and has its own unique purpose in creation. So basically, it's taking what you are and focusing it in on whatever you want to focus it in on. So in the case of sacred chocolate, I bring sacred chocolate whenever I think about, like right this instant, all of sacred chocolate, not only in the factory and all the machines running right now, the second, but all the chocolate and distribution. I bring it into my sacred heart, and I actually pray that manna, like manna, the mysterious material from the Bible, materializes in sacred chocolate as kind of this elevating substance that helps elevate the consciousness and well-being of humanity. You know, a lot of people refer to manna these days as the Ormus materials. And, you know, actually water is a great carrier of the Ormus materials. So, you know, there's Ormus all throughout nature, of course, in our body. And so I always, you know, want to use love to basically, you know, be an attractor field for creating more Ormus in chocolate, of course. And we actually have a bar called Gold Ormus, where we actually put you know, actual gold ormus that we create more like in a science lab into the chocolate as well.
That's pretty cool. So I don't know how to make chocolate. I like eating it though. When my dad comes back from Switzerland, he hides all the good stuff in the bottom of his suitcase and gives me the garbage. But that's okay. How do you make chocolate, and what water source do you use to make it, and what do you do to that water source prior to making the chocolate?
Well, the water source for making chocolate is just whatever rainwater comes from the heavens down onto the cacao trees. So, or if people are irrigating cacao, but that's a rarity. Usually cacao is grown in tropical regions where there's a lot of rain. So basically the water for the cacao is just coming from the heavens and being absorbed by the trees.